Hello, hello, hello. We're so excited to see you come in and take your seat. And you're already sitting? Okay. All right. So I'm Mia Sines, and this is Lori Montre, and we are the Greatest You Academy. And so today is such a powerful day because it's about breaking the blocks, which everyone has blocks, don't they, Lori?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this, over the course of the last week, we have outlined for you the exact four-step process, right? That we use in our own lives, that we use with clients. And it's a really beautiful process that has led to thousands and thousands of transformations. But the one thing that we really have to talk about, right? We would not serve you very well if we said, okay, here's these four steps, go after it, go get it. The rest of your life starts right now. See you sometime or whatever. Because that's not really how transformative processes work, right? So yes, you have this framework and it's beautiful, and this knowledge will enrich your life no matter what. But what we really need to do today in order to serve you is to tell you, okay, so here are some of the ways that you may have experienced getting blocked in the past, right? I'm sure all of you have had the experience. I know I've had it dozens of times, or I'm like so jazzed about something. I am going to make this happen. And, this change or that change. And in my past, it was like, a lot of stuff around my body, like, yes, this is going to be the one diet that, changes my whole life, or this one thing. And then a week later or a month later, you're like, my life is exactly the same as when I first came to this process, as I first started really applying my energy. And it's because of these blocks. So we need to talk about them today. We don't want that to happen to you. That's why we're devoting this day of the challenge to the common stumbling blocks. We don't want to put a lot of fluff in here. We want to keep it as succinct as possible. I will mention right now that if you were one of the many people who signed up to receive the PDF download ebook, The Greatest You, that book has more details in it about these stumbling blocks and what they look like so that you can recognize them. So maybe you've downloaded it and haven't had a chance to really dive into it, or maybe you haven't downloaded it yet. We want to make sure that you have that and that you can go through it, and it's something that you can keep and understand these roadblocks in your own life a little bit better. So we'll talk about each one of them in turn. Me and I will talk about, some of the most common ones. There's probably a few more that are subsets of these. And so it's a big topic, but we really want to bring that to you today and help you start recognizing where your blocks have been in the past, how you're going to handle them this time so that they don't stop you from creating everything that you're getting really excited about. And it's worth mentioning here, Mia, we've been seeing and hearing from so many beautiful people who are inspired. They are taking the action, they're doing the homework, but at the same time, they are, but at the same time, we're also hearing, ooh, this feels a little weird. I'm getting a little nervous. There's something here, and that's what we always do when we're on our own. We always get to this point, and then something comes in. Sometimes we recognize it, which is so powerful for these women that are here and recognizing, ooh, something's going on. Something's trying to block me here. It's maybe I'm afraid. Maybe I'm just, don't feel safe going into this unknown. Well, of course you don't feel safe in the unknown. That's what our brains do for us, right? But a lot of times we don't even know that there's a stumbling block being activated in the background.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Please tell us about that before we dive into the others, because it's so important. It's so funny as I think back about my own stumbling blocks that I thought they were real things, but it was just my subconscious saying, nope, that's not for you. That's not safe, that's whatever it is.
And the anxiety kicks in, and people don't realize that when they feel the anxiety, they need to stop. Or when you feel discomfort in your body, or you're scared, or you're nervous, or whatever, just stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling, and where am I feeling it, and where is it coming from? We need to talk to ourselves too in order to discover this stuff. So what a block feels like for most people is there's an immense pressure or stress or confusion, right? You're just like, what is going on? And then you get a little depressed about it because you don't know what to do. You're just like, oh no, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then there's massive confusion and you're lost.
Yeah.
So that's what a block looks like, and you can't break through. And when you think about it that way, that looks like it's many, many, many layers. But really, when we identify that we have a block and we begin to work through it, it's easy. The more we do it, guess what, guys? The faster we get through it each time. Literally, the faster. I just want to say that it moves super, super fast. So any anxiety in your body, any no when somebody says something, be aware those can be blocks. We also have the subconscious blocks of not understanding or knowing what we've never been told. So we call that a block because we don't know. But remember the saying that we love to say in here, what you don't know until you know it. So get to know these aspects that are going on in your life, because one, again, on the love side, you are very valuable. And this is very important. When you surrender, I'm going to use that word. It's like when you soften up, when you relax a moment to
Allow.
allow to take accountability for yourself, just in, how am I feeling? Okay, I don't feel great. Okay, so where could this be coming from? Where is it in my body? Okay. Now, how am I going to get rid of it? Right? How are you going to get rid of it? You have to look at it, identify it, and feel into it. These are emotional spaces that trigger people because the blocks can be strong. A lot of blocks were created from early childhood. And so they're simple to get through. It's about the process of not being afraid. So first, you got to identify it so that you're not afraid of it. Fear follows us in blocks, doesn't it, Lori? It chases us around. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's, when we recognize, hey, fear is not here necessarily as to sabotage, or it's not a horrible thing. It's literally trying to keep us safe. So if we just follow that, right, that's kind of our survival system. Because a lot of times when we get into these blocks, we feel threatened, even though we don't really understand why we might be feeling endangered or threatened. And when that happens, we switch over, and we're going to talk more about this in the stumbling block of our nervous system. But what happens is we switch into survival mode, and survival mode is a whole different way of thinking and reacting to life. It is not this flow place where we're creative and we have access to our good ideas and all of that stuff. It is literally like, I need to survive the next 2 minutes. Do what's absolutely important, put out these fires, this dream stuff, everything I want to create. Nope, that's not safe. That has to wait. And it's just there's just so much to this topic. And, sometimes we don't even know, like you're saying, we don't know what the block is. And sometimes we don't even know that there's a block. Sometimes we'll be like, oh yeah, I just decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Or I just got really busy. Or, we will create some drama in our life. So we have to put our attention there. And we can't put it over here. That's how powerful our subconscious and these blocks can be. And because we already know, we've already established. And I think if everybody really tuned in and asked themselves if it was true, I think we've established that whatever you want to create, you can. So all of these things that we're talking about absolutely can be overcome. And let's just start, I'll just briefly give you an overview of what those are. There's going to be living your life from your civic self as opposed to your authentic self. We'll talk about each of these in turn. Challenges with relationships are not having supported relationships. So relationships as a category, your well-being, your nervous system, and operating from the old operating system, limiting beliefs, and being kind of what I would say a slave to your emotions. So let's talk about each of these in turn. Yes, exactly, right. And that's what we teach. That's one of the most powerful things that we have in common is that emotional mastery. And you'll hear us, we talk about it all the time because it is literally, it's like your guidance system, right? It's how you navigate in the world is through your emotions, and everything impacts your emotions, and your emotion impacts everything. So it's very, very important. So let's start with that concept, Mia, of civic self versus authentic self. I always think of it when we were babies, we were fully connected to our authentic self. You know, we thought we were the best things ever in the world. We were like, oh my gosh, these hands, that is so fun. That's amazing. Here's what I want. Give it to me now,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, right? And I'm not suggesting that we should always be, you know, baby-like in our demands,
Yeah.
but we were connected to what we needed, what we were feeling, and all of that. And then over time, you know, we developed what I call the civic self. And the civic self is who you thought you needed to be. You became more and more aware of the other people in your life and how your actions or behavior, how that impacted them. And you started to take that in and you started to change. And, you know, each one of us in our own way, to one degree or another, became who we thought we needed to be in order to get approval and praise and all of that. And we lost touch of who we actually are. You know, I love Wayne Dyer talks about this in such a powerful way. He talks about, you know, a baby hyena is born and he's, you know, going around, he's making those funny noises and he's, you know, frolicking and hunting and everything. Can you imagine a parent hyena, you know, trying to say, hey, you're being a little too loud, you're really being a little too rambunctious, you should, you know, whatever. This would be so, we have natural tendencies. We have, each one of us, you know, who we really are out in the world, and we're expressing that. And unfortunately, you know, culture and our parents, our family, our peers, our schools, our teachers, our religious leaders, all of it have their own idea of, because of their own past, right? And their wounds and whatever, their own idea of who we need to be. And so they try to shape us in some way, but it's as ridiculous as trying to shape the hyena into being, you know, a graceful, you know, fill in the blank or dolphin or something, you know, it's that ridiculous. Put us, right, to try to make us into something that we're not. And but when we are something that we're not, and Mia's going to talk about what that looks like in just a second, how that manifests and what our life is like when we're living as the civic self as opposed to the authentic self. But you know, over time we just kind of lose touch a little bit with who we really are. We equate our worth to what we do, like our vocation or what we do for others, and your skills and the grades you got when you were a kid and the promotion at work, whatever. We start to see ourselves as what we own, our, you know, material possessions, the type of clothes that we have, the purse that we carry, the car that we drive. We start to judge ourselves and put value on what we look like, whether we're pretty or handsome or muscular or thin enough or whatever. And what others think of us. Do we have, you know, is everyone just, wow, she's just amazing. She has, you know, she's so fill in the blank, right? That's how we start to define ourselves, as opposed to, this is me, right? This is what I really like. This is how I see this. These are my values. This is my worth. And so when we place our value and all that kind of thing, we're never okay, right? We can never have enough, be enough. And there's this incredible unsettled feeling inside that we are not who we're supposed to be. And I always describe it like, so many people come to me and the way they describe their life, I'm like, oh yeah, you're wearing the itchy sweater. That's what it feels like to me to live authentically, is this, oh, just wearing this itchy sweater that you can't get comfortable in life. And you certainly can't soar in life, right? You can't be the greatest version of yourself. You can't live the greatest life if you've got itchy sweater on. Right. Mia, how do you find that people, how do you know, or how could we help people understand whether or not they are living their authentic lives versus their civic lives?
When you were talking, I mean, a lot of things, there's a lot of examples for this, but I think I'm going to use the one that came because I kept hearing that it's what women would identify with most. Mm-hmm. And that is our person, who we are, what we look like, how we feel, how we identify with ourselves. It is what she's talking about, but let's take the individual aspect of us. Very few people are confident within themselves. Very few people think that they're attractive. Very few people think that they are all that. Very few people even know who they are, even know their emotions, because our parents put information into us, our friends' parents, our school teachers, clergymen, the news. Yeah. We are sponges when we're young and we absorb everything. And so we want to be like everyone else. Have you seen a little child mimic you? Not in a bad way, but doing exactly what you do. They follow us. right? We followed others. I remember seeing one of my son's friends at 5 years old doing a specific arm stretch that I would do after tennis. And he would just go around the house when he was at my house, because I would stretch for him, and he would do it too. And I was like, isn't that cute? And I wasn't even
And it's a
quite
good
aware.
thing sometimes, right? It's how we learn to navigate in the world.
Exactly. And
But
yeah, but it's what is not who we are. So as we get to know ourselves, we remove all those aspects. What's left? An empty hole? No. Our true reality, our authentic self fills right in smoothly, and it feels smooth. And then you can tell the difference between the authentic self and the inauthentic self by the emotional stress you feel in your body, by the way you feel. Do you get agitated and hot? Does your body have energy flowing through it at times? Do you feel lethargic and tired? Are you depressed? These are all signs of not being in tune and functioning in as Lori and I call it the Trinity, the body, mind, and spirit. When that's activated all precisely, we are on fire. We can do everything. Now, you may not want to be an on fire person. You just want to be a progressive one, which is okay. Same principle.
Yeah.
You just work it to the areas in which you want to elevate up.
Yeah.
Understanding who we are is the most important thing. And yes, everyone, understand that everything is evolved around our emotions, because our emotions come from our awareness, which affect also our physical. So it's activating our body, right? It's not just in one space. It's not like I got a scratch on my arm and that's it. It goes into all the places in our body. So this is why when we are aware of this, we can move out of it and become authentic. It's what do you really want? Getting to know yourself. You understand your authenticness. You finally have the reason and desire to create what you want, not what somebody else's dream is. You can help create somebody else's dream when you've lived your own. But until then, focus on yourself, right? Even parents need to learn to focus on themselves, because how can they give their children knowledge, awareness, growth, a legacy, if they're not whole and complete? A lot of times people come to Lori and I for legacy work, meaning they want to heal this, become authentic so that they can produce and provide amazing things for their families.
Yeah. Yeah. These are like generational breakers, right? These are powerful people who have a sense in themselves that it stops with me.
Yeah.
I'm right. The last one. I'm going to do the work that it takes so that the people who come after me are not going to have to be bound by these things anymore. And it's very powerful. And I don't know what it is. I don't question or ask the universe why they seek us out, but I'm glad they do. And it's been such a pleasure to work with
our lives were that way, right?
Yeah.
We no more.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, I remember that moment. No more, it stops with me. I remember declaring that to the universe. Yeah. I will not take my childhood abuse. I said it several times. I will not take my childhood abuse when I was 18 into any other relationship, and never with my children, ever.
Mm-hmm. And it's more of not even acting it out, but it no longer has the effect that will carry forward. So it's super powerful. Now, with all of these, I just want to say, because we do not have the time to go super deep into these or into the solution. So I really want you to understand, as we talk about these things and we brush over from a high level overview, you then say things like you need to get in touch with yourself. When we work with people, we have methods, we have things. Okay, notice these things. This means you're triggered. This means you might be living outside of it. That, things to explore, actual mythology to get to the bottom that comes from so many experiences with different people in different situations. And so I realize, and I wish, if we had 6 months together, we could, dive into these things a little bit more. So please don't think, well, I don't know how to do that, so it must be, I'm not going to be able to. There's tools and coaching and guidance that you can, get for yourself so that you will know what we're talking about. You will be able to understand how the process works to go from someone who's living primarily and connected to their civic self to someone who is living as an authentic being. So can I
just say really quick, guys, in 2008, I was still in a wheelchair, and I declared to the universe I needed to live, not die. And so I changed my life. And we've got to make that choice for ourselves. Otherwise, your life does not change. You've already
Yeah,
lived
it
this
takes,
long,
right.
change. Mhm.
Yeah, it takes diving into and knowing these areas. That's why we're trying to make it as simple as possible. We're like, here's the roadmap for you to, this is the things you can do to actually overcome and start to live into your greatness, right? So the second thing I'll talk about really quick, because it's pretty simple to understand, right? If you have relationships that are not working for you, if you have relationships, if you're having struggling with boundaries in your relationship, or you have conflict, or you're not being honored, or whatever it is about your relationship, your energy and your life force going to be sucked up by that. You're not going to be able to live into what you're trying to create. You only have so much energy. You can put it here in living, the difficulties of relationships without right boundaries, without being supported, etc. Or you can put it in right to what you want to create. And the other way is when we just don't have love and support, right? So it can be either the relationships that we have are, they need some work. Maybe we need to own who we are in a relationship and be treated in the way that we want and need to be, right? And also we need to have love and support. And that means starting with having people around you that share this growth mindset. It is, so imperative, because out in the world, most people are trying to survive the day. They are reactionary. They're putting out the fires that are in front of them. They are not able at this point to be growth minded. They are able, but in this moment, because of the life that they're living, or because they're not seeking it out for whatever reason, they are, just trying to get through the day. So you need people as a growth minded, inspired person who's trying to live on purpose and with passion. You need to have that element in your life regularly. So things like, building your tribe, things like having a community like this, where you show up and you're fed by the other people in the community. It's inspired by their thoughts and ideas and the action that they're taking. This is really important. So it's an aspect of relationship blocks, right, that we need to look at and need to build that in your life until you feel like, yes, I have the support and the love, right, and the cheerleading that is inspiring me to keep going in this journey. We're not meant to do these kinds of things on our own. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot that goes into, well, I don't know how to set boundaries, and sometimes we don't even see that we need to. So there's a lot of work that can be done to up level this aspect of the journey, so that it doesn't become a stumbling block for you.
This is something your family never taught you, so don't feel bad. Just learn it and enjoy the benefits of it.
Yeah, and a lot of times, until we're talking to people and helping them, objectively look at their relationships, they don't even really realize that there's anything going on. They're like, what? This is how all my relationships always in my life have ever been, right? Until you start looking at it and gently, right? There's gentle ways to go about creating, the healthy relationships that serve you and the other person. Because I guarantee you, if it's not a healthy relationship for you, it's not for them either. In some way. So there's beautiful work to be done there, so that you feel supported and going through life with the people that really put the air under your wings. So the next block is the well-being, Mia, and help us understand how our physical well-being, those areas of nutrition, sleep, stress, movement, all of those kinds of things, how do they affect this journey of transformation? A lot of people are like, it's two different things, right? There's my body health, and then there's this other aspect of me.
The cool thing that everybody's going to learn is that it's all under one system, right? They all have to work together in order to be at a place that you want. The well-being is so vital. Why? Because this temple, this body, this mind, this soul needs to be nurtured. And if we don't get enough sleep, if we have sickness or illness or gut system issues or immunity, everything, it creates, people don't realize that a leaky gut or a low immunity will bring brain fog. Well, supplements, the right kind, can support that. Lori put me, she's our guru. Lori put me on some supplements early in the week because my energy was lost. I am on fire now. It's amazing. I'm going, and I feel better than I have in a couple years, literally. So of course I want more. Do you want more of health? Do you want more of your own wellness? Because when you're like, when I was sitting in the wheelchair and I had brain fog, I could not, until the time came, create my life until I had had enough when the doctor said your organs are closing and you have less than 2 years to live. Then I got active. Why did I wait so long? So don't wait till it's almost too late. I was fortunate that it wasn't too late for me. Don't wait on your life. Your life is worth living now. Your health, your mental, your physical, it's all part of the well-being. If you have an imbalance in your emotional status, that goes under the well-being thing too. If you have a low spiritual or inner core or life force or whatever you want to call it, development about yourself and a higher power, that even falls into our well-being because it gives people strength when they can be supported that way. It's all together.
It's all together. You can't have optimization in one area and where another area is lacking. So we do spend time when we work with people on their physical well-being. And what's amazing is it's like, you know, especially the people who come in and wanting to create health, where their focus is on health. It's always an element, but sometimes people come in with a focus on some aspect of their health, you know, and they're dropping 50 pounds or, you know, gaining that energy and living and feeling
and mental clarity.
Yeah. And really feeling like they're their best physical versions of themselves, as well as, you know, all of the other aspects. So we would never not address that. We would never, you know, leave that just on its own, because it's such a valuable and important part and can be a block to what you're trying to create. It is a block.
It is a block. It is somebody who has had illnesses off and on her whole life, who I healed them or whatever. I'm going to tell you, it is a block. If you have depression, if you have body issues, if you have emotional garbage going on, those are all blocks, right? So it all goes back to the wellness of our body. Yeah. This is why Lori and I actually joined forces, because of her knowledge with the nervous system and the foods and the supplements and all that. I was just like, together, we're a conquering force, and together we can support people in all areas. So understand that the body and the health of the body is just as important as everything else.
It really is. Yeah. So the next topic that the next block we'll address with you is so important. It is, and it's a piece, unfortunately, that's really missing in a lot of people's work that they're doing. And it's the nervous system. And there's so much to say and to talk about it. And we'll definitely, you know, continue to offer this kind of information because it's so vital. But if you understand, you know, so many of us in this modernized world, in our country, we're running around as with essentially in survival mode. And a lot of times we don't even realize it because it's just normal life. And we've felt this way for such a long time that we don't even realize what's going on. But most of us are trying to put out fires, just get through the day. We feel like we're being chased and there's never enough time. There's this much to do and not enough time to do it. I feel overwhelmed such that, you know, that even the slightest additional thing, or even the things that are on my plate for today, just feel like way more than I can handle, right? And what we're experiencing there is the nervous system, rather than being in a place of calm aliveness where we feel good and content and safe and supported, we feel in danger, right? And then that's survival. We could be in fight or flight. We could be in freeze, shut down, and just overwhelm, where all we want to do is, you know, take so much effort to get us off the couch, or, you know, whatever it is that we're experiencing. And when we're in survival mode or nervous system overwhelm, we are acting from our primitive brain. Right? And that's a good thing, because if we really were in danger, we would want our primitive brain making those decisions for us. But what happens is, you know, we're meant to be in that phase for a few minutes while we escape the danger, while we run away or fight the danger or whatever it is that we need to do to get out of that situation. Then we're supposed to return to our parasympathetic or our natural rest and digest state, right? That's how we're supposed to live life, with an occasional, dip into the survival system. But that's not the case for most of us today. Most of us are living or spending a vast majority of our time in survival mode. So as I said, survival mode means we're operating from our primitive brain. Our primitive brain is the reactionary brain. It's not the brain that has creative ideas and can see the bigger picture and can really live with inspiration and that flow. Being in the zone does not happen when you're in survival. Those two things are completely consistent with each other. You can't have both, right? So if you're going to live as your greatest you, if you're going to create, if you're going to live an inspired life, you have to have your nervous system in a space where you have connection to that part of you. And so that is such a fundamental part of our work, and something that I am seeing it, more and more addressed, because people are realizing that when we're shut down, we're not going to create anything. We're not going to create new thinking. That part of our brain that is responsible for new neurological pathways is shut down in survival mode. So you can do all the work, but nothing's going to stick if you're in survival. And so we got so tired of seeing people put in the effort and go through and, ask themselves, why is nothing moving for me? Why do I know what to do, but I'm not doing any of it? Or why am I trying to do it, but nothing is changing for me? It's because we're not in our state of, inspiration. We're not connected to that part of us that can do all of these things. So as a foundational, both the authentic self and the nervous system is the foundational piece of everything that we do with people, so that they can have the foundation to build on with. And when they have that, they're able to push through these blocks and create everything that they want to. And in a way that, they may have tried so many different things over and over and gotten nowhere. But when they're acting authentically and their nervous system is in that inspired, allows them access to that inspired place, that's when they're able to do all the things that we're talking about.
And I'm not going to add anything except for this, because she hit them all. As we've seen with people, there's a drastic, fast, quantum almost healing sense when people work and address their nervous system. I just want to say that it's 1,000 times faster because you're open.
Oh yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that is so true. So our next block, Mia, will you kind of talk to us about, it's such a, we're like computers, right?
Yeah.
And we have our computer operating system, and everything we're churning out is based on that system. And unless we're willing to address that, which is our old thinking and our emotions, unless we're willing to change that, we're going to keep creating the same day over and over again.
Isn't that scary, Groundhog's Day?
Yeah.
If you think about it, yeah. So again, what Lori said is absolutely right on. It's really in this space, I call them patterns, and it is an operating system. So if you're playing with the Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man from the 80s, and then there came a Super Pac-Man, it's a different system, or whatever. The upgrade on things. You're going to, if you want, upgrade yourself, because again, everything is learned, absorbed, created from birth on up. And so when we look at our life, we actually have people create it on paper too, with this dream, believe, create process. What do you want? Of course, you don't know what you don't know what you want until you know it. You got to get through the emotions. You got to get the old pattern stopped, and it takes silencing to feel, think, and absorb everything. It's the most beautiful space that humans can be within themselves. Have you heard of self-love? That's, I would call self-love, when you can stop your old operating system and replace it with a new one. What's a new one? What you want to create as you heal through or replace or remove the non-operating of the survival, of the emotional distress, of the fear, of all the things that we've been talking about this week, of all the things that keep coming up for you. You know what your goals are. Like I've talked to so many people on the welcome calls, you know what your goals are, and you also know what stops you, but you're afraid to look at what stops you.
Yeah.
Why are you afraid to look at what stops you? Because it stops you. And you're like, I can't do that. So the same thing, look at the emotions around it. Look at how you have always been doing something in the same way. Remember, there's that saying, you can't change a situation, a healing, or anything with the same way that you've been doing it. You have to find a new solution. This is the solution, literally.
Yeah, exactly. It is, recognizing I'm not my brain. I'm not the thoughts that I have had. So many people identify with the thoughts that they have. They think I couldn't possibly ever believe that I'm worthy. I have this operating system that I'm not, that I'm not somebody who could be wealthy. I always pick the wrong people. No one would really love me. As soon as they get to know me, they won't
That's so sad.
really love me. If they see my flaws, they won't love me anymore. I can't have a job that's both creative and that pays my bills. I'm not good at XYZ. These are the kinds of thoughts that we think, well, that's just me. And we take them as truth, and they're absolute lies, right? Then we don't have to believe any of those things. And, a lot of people have come to us and they said, well, I've tried to think differently, but it hasn't worked.
Those are blocks too.
Yes, absolutely. And we know so much about the brain. We know so much about neuroscience. This last 20 years has been incredible wealth of, explosion with brain mapping and all the different ways that we understand how the brain works, and we understand how to create new neural pathways so that you can develop the new operating system that matches what you want in your life. And that is between the thoughts and emotions, you get to create your reality. Now, all the other things that we talked about are important because you can't change your thinking and you can't change your emotions if all these other things are not in place as well. So, anything that, promises, hey, we're going to take care of your thoughts and everything is going to be great. There's all these pieces back here, right? And they all play together. So if you want to change your thoughts, it's part of a comprehensive way of, going about changing them. There's the things underneath that have to be in place first. And maybe that's why you've tried in the past and haven't been able to create that new operating system. But, all the thoughts about your self-worth, about what's possible, about the fear, about the stress, about the heartache, the limitations, you can change all of those. You don't have to stand in that place and be uncomfortable with those thoughts and let them dictate who you are and what you do. That's not you at all.
And as you understand, your mindset changes, which is everything. Our mindset is the number one thing that keeps us in place, on track, moving forward. And that's our new operating system, right? So we change our mindset and we use that as our operating system, but you've got to go through the steps and work them. Otherwise, to think that you can go from A to Z, you can't. You've got to hit all the little elements in between, and they can move very quickly.
Yes.
But that's why you have to work on the nervous system. That's why there's a pattern and a system that we have in place in order to get through this.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously from just our really brief high level overview of these blocks, you can see that there's a lot of work here. We told you the common pitfalls and some thoughts on how you can overcome them, but it's really hard when you don't know the systems, you don't have guidance, you don't have support, you don't know what you don't know, right? And right. And so often it's like a matter of, somebody that's over here on the outside, kind of pointing things out and asking you to try things on, where things really, light bulbs start to go off and it becomes really clear. This is what's been happening. This is what I need to do. It's just how it is, right? Living as the person you think you should be instead of the person you really are, the nervous system, the relationships, deficiencies in your well-being, the limited thinking, the being slave to your emotions, all of these keep you from what you want. And it is possible. That's what I really want you to take away today. not the pessimism or the, oh, well, I might as well just stop because there's so many blocks in my way. What I really want you to take away from today is that we know all of these things and they're manageable. It's possible to break through every single one of them. It does take, a little bit of effort. You could stumble for years and years, right? But without the right mythology, without the relying on, neuroscience to help us to understand how it goes smoothly, easily, and quickly. And that's why we created the Greatest You Academy. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow and about how you want to take all of your hard work through the week, take it forward with confidence. But in this, today, in this moment, if you're feeling like, gosh, I really just wish I could have that life and I'm ready. I just feel ready to bust every block, to be that version of myself, both for me and the world. If that's how you're feeling, I want you to know that it is entirely possible. And everything that we talked about today is covered and addressed, and we support you and guide you in overcoming all of these blocks in the Greatest You Academy. That's why we created it. And we're going to hear a little bit more about it tomorrow, but it is a beautiful course that has not only an advanced curriculum that addresses all of these things, but it also has the community and the live coaching and the kind of the individual aspects of your particular journey and what you need in order to bust through the blocks and create what you came here to do. It's possible for you to go back to that exercise we did on day one, where you rated your every aspect of your life and have all fives. That's a thing. So this is, we offer that. We created a way for people to remove the blocks so that it's just a matter of creating, having the confidence that whatever gets put on your heart, you will bring into being.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really beautiful. Okay, guys. So tomorrow we will see you here.
You want to tell me about the integration, or it's really
the accelerated calls, or the
well, you tell them about the accelerated calls. I'll tell them about the integration for today, which is the worksheet for day 6. And that worksheet is just, we want you to go through those 5 blocks and ask yourself these questions. How has this block held me back in the past? This is all outlined there, so you don't have to write it down. Am I truly ready to move past these blocks to create a new life? Ask yourself the question and really listen for that answer. Because if the answer is yes, oh boy, we've got, there's going to be some shifts in your life. So big, beautiful things. Yeah. Number 3, what do I need to, in order to move past these blocks? You know the answer to this and everything else, by the way. There is no answer that can be asked that you don't know the answer to.
It's inside you.
Yeah. And number 4, am I ready to invest in myself and to have meaning, purpose, passion, and abundance in my life? Think about these questions. Sit down with yourself, make a date, and really get to know yourself when it comes to these blocks and how you want to move through them, if you're ready to do that. Looking forward to tomorrow for sure. And Mia, tell them about the accelerated calls, because this is super valuable and important part of this process.
It is. So those of you who have already taken the welcome calls know that how powerful those were. Everybody was blown away, could see their greatness, but also where they were stuck. The accelerated calls are a longer free session with Lori and I, and it's to get you moving forward, to set up a path. You can't just do the challenge and say, my life has changed, I'm a new person. You are in the moment, but remember what happens. The moment you leave here and stop doing the work, what happens? You go back to the old patterns.
Old operating system.
Yeah, they have not been implemented into your conscious and subconscious yet. You got to work them in order for them to then start to work themselves naturally. Yeah. So come on this call. It's between 30 and 40 minutes. It's great. It's all about you. It's how we can support you. It's what you're going through. And it's like free coaching too. So sign up there. The link is in the emails. The integrative homework is in the emails. So your day 6 and 7 are also in those packages too. You have everything you need right here in the Greatest You. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and have a very beautiful weekend. And again tomorrow. We'll see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.